Hello there. Today we have a different kind of video. So I've always wanted to make, I guess, card game. And I've always really liked Dungeons and Dragons and Dungeon World, but I always thought Dungeons and Dragons was way too complicated. I bought all the books, and it's kind of a pain. I loved it when I'm not the DM, or just not. Yeah, I love it when I'm not the DM, but I'm also like, I think it's just a little bit too technical, and that's why I really like Dungeon World. And so based on that, I really want something that's even more simplistic than or easier than Dungeon World, because when you invite friends to Dungeon World, they don't get it. Or it's still kind of cumbersome because you have like these character sheets, and then you have all these stats and everything. And so I wanted to have Dungeon World that you could play anywhere on the go, as well. So that you can introduce anyone to and just get playing. Still requires your imagination and to do role playing. But it's very simple, and it just requires like one dice. You can make an advanced version by bringing the D&D dice with all the different kinds of dice. But the idea I have is that you just have these very abstract concepts, and there's only like 4 of them basically. And so I wrote this all down on my blog. It's called Adventure Story, which is just a bad title. But the idea is that there are characters, there are items, and there are arts, and then you just basically play with that. But on top of this, what I wanted was something fun to play with, so I made cards for it. Because in my original write-up for this game idea is like, what you should do is you should just have a piece of paper with you and break it into cards, or have cue cards, and then you can just put like your move on the card, or you can write the character on the card and put the stats on the card, and then you can just give them to people to look at. So if you have like a magic spell, you just say new art, fireball, does 1d6 damage, do XYZ, that kind of thing. So I made some cards. I got out my Figma, which is not the tool you should use to make cards because it's print based, and Figma is computer based, pixels. So that was pretty funny. I spent a couple hours designing the cards, and then I found out that I designed for the wrong dimension, and so I spent the next 4 hours redesigning my cards to fix them to be print friendly. Even though I thought I had all the dimensions correct. So what we have is a deck of cards. You can see here I made some default character cards, which looks like I'll just show you close up. So there's a character card. Oh god, I'll do this better here. Character card. There, I don't know if that'll focus at all, but I got a bunch of different designs off Twitter just for testing purposes, obviously. Let's see if I can do this better. Yeah, I don't know. So there's some default characters. These are all just prototype basis, so I just went on Twitter and found, or I really liked it, and it's like, this look cool, and it'd make the concept of like what a card could look like if I made characters and like made actual cards for them. But here's like the back, Adventure Story has a nice little pattern on it, little for prototyping purposes only. Then you have your character, and so the way that works is that if you're a player in the game, you get a character card, and you can write your name down at the top spot. Then you can write any notes that you have down that you want to record over time. And the idea is that you shouldn't really hold on to these cards and treat them like they're valuable. Really, they're kind of like pieces of paper, just templates. So if your character dies, you can just literally tear it up and grab another one. And then obviously you have at the top here, you have the character card. It's supposed to be like an icon or like a designator, so you can tell the card difference. But then you have your stats on the right. So, or I guess on my right, that'd be the cards left when you look at it. And you have your strength, your intelligence, your speed, and your charisma. So everything in Adventure Story is based off these 4 stats, and I call them DNA. And the reason why there's only 4 stats is to keep it dead simple. You don't want to go into a game and say like, hey, there's 20 different stats, and you need to figure out what your armor strength is, and you need to figure out your health, and then you have to all these other things. So strength just determines your health, and there's just requirements for items, and the DM can just write whatever they're down, and there's very basic dice roll, 1 to 6 to figure out your DNA. So you just randomly roll for it, and put your thing down, or you can just distribute the stats however you want. It really just depends how you want to play, but the idea is that you can just record 4 stats, and then that's how it works. So the arts would depend on your stats, and so would the items. So with that, there's a bunch of different other cards. So I have a whole deck of all these blanks here, and the idea is that you can just give these out, or the DM can write on them, or you can write on them, and be like, you know what, I want a spell and I want to do this or that kind of thing, and you just write it down. The DM can approve it, and then you can just use that card. So those are some blank character cards here, so you can just you can draw a smiley face, or like whatever you want. If you want to create a pet or something like that, you can do that too. Then there's NPC cards, which are basically character cards. The only reason why they're different is so that you can tell players apart from NPCs. And NPCs include anything. It's from monsters to interactable characters to they can be pets as well. A box with attributes for some reason. You really just want, it's non-player character. So that's the rule for that. Anything that has stats, you can put there. But then as you play the game, there are 2 other things, which are the arts and the items. So I'll just get that really quick here. So I'll just show you the NPC first. So non-player character, you have the stats designed a little differently. So they're at the top and they're smaller. NPC at the top here, and then you have your non-player character, and then you can write whatever you want in there, and you can draw here. Obviously, if you're gonna have a template for drawing cards, it should probably be a bit more white. So this is the first time I've ever actually printed cards. So lessons learned on doing that, but the idea is that you have a place for notes and you have a place for art, and then you can print cool cards. So I would love to just print a whole bunch of different cards for skeletons, slime, dragons or whatever, or cyborg, elemental, that kind of thing, and then you have a nice place for art. And so NPC, very similar to character, it just looks a tad different in order to make it noticeable. Then you have the art. The art is different. So you have your area for artwork, and then you have your area to actually write down what's possible, how it works. This one I'm a little bit more worried about, as arts I can get fairly text heavy, so you might not be able to write everything in there, and it might have made more sense to include more writing space. But I wanted to see, as I play the prototype of the game, how that would work out. And then you have your art requirements at the bottom here. So this is what it requires in order to use the art. So if you the art, for example, might be the ability to wield swords. That would be an art. It's a skill, like anything, or knowledge. So if you had knowledge in the history of the lore of the world, that would be an art as well. And so these arts are things, they represent skills, knowledge, and anything like that, and they can have requirements as well. And that's how you can keep track of things. So you're going to have a lot of art cards, and what you end up doing is you end up, having your player cards, and then your character that you play in the game isn't a character sheet anymore. It's a hand. So you have your hand of cards. So you might have like a couple items, your arts, and your character. And that way it's much more engaging. So when you say like I play Fireball, it's like, well, give me your Fireball specs. And it's like, okay, well, here's the card. Instead of flipping through a giant book and having to share the book with everybody, you can just be like, here's what it does, kind of thing, and just give it to each other. Yeah. The last thing is you have the item. The item card is, the abstract at most. It can represent anything. So it can be just like items that your character possesses. And like, say if you want to put them in a box for storage, you can literally put all the item cards in a pile and be like, okay, they're in my box. And I can only access it when I'm in town. Or they can be like things that you've equipped or things that are in your bag, right? And so that's why item cards have, just like arts, the requirements for your DNA, but then also additionally has the weight represented by the like literal weight in kilograms of how much it costs to carry. And so that is based off, strength basically. So your character strength determines how much you can carry, and then you write down when you get an item, how much does it cost, and then if your carries more than your strength, in loose terms, there's an actual mechanic I wrote down, then you get slowed down and you can't go. So it's very, I think the system's really cool. You can just like literally have, this is my hand, you can like keep looking at it throughout the game and play, and then you can trade them with other players. So like, if you're like, oh, I'll trade you a sword for whatever, you can just like literally do that. Maybe items could be coins. You could write on there. You could just write notes on how many coins you have down, that kind of thing. So I think it changes the way that you play these role-playing games into a much more it's simpler, easier to jump into, and then also a little bit more fun, and also gives you a little bit more visualization. I was never really a fan of the miniatures. I think that's kind of cool, but I'm not really into that. I think cards are really fun, and I've been playing a bunch of Magic recently and things like that. And the art is always, at compliments to the game. So if you have an NPC, maybe your dungeon master wants to look online for a cool NPC character and then print it out, and they can do that, because that's literally what I just did. I just found some art, made a template, and printed it out. So I think that's what makes this different. And the first pack that I printed came with like 100 cards, so it's quite a bit. And the other thing that is different is it comes in, I chose the tarot cards format, so it's quite a bit bigger than your regular card. Let's just see here. So if I get a magic card out, so this is the difference. So you got quite a bit of space for just writing on, that kind of thing. It's not double the size, but it's almost, it's got some space to it. And I wanted that just for the fact that it allows more room for the artwork. Got some extra space along the sides for the stats or whatever, or writing down titles and stuff like that, and that kind of thing. So yeah, that is another project that I've started. This one's very experimental, so I'm going to test it and see how people respond to it. I think this is going to be the way how I'll be playing Dungeon World, or Adventure Story as I call it, from now on. But that's kind of it. If you're interested in this, find my website and email me. I just kind of make it, I haven't released the design for the artwork or anything like that, or like I designed all the templates and everything myself. So that I am looking for art I'd love to buy art and just like actually make real cards. That would be cool. And then sell the cards. So if people are interested in buying cards, or B, providing art for the cards, let me know. Or actually want to do something like this. Yeah. But I'll just be making my own cards because you can do that nowadays, and that's sick. So, hope you enjoy this different kind of video of projects that I do. But yeah, peace out.